The roof of the garage was collapsing. You could go in there and park your car, the roof collapses on you and you're in hospital, you know.
What are some things that you've seen going through properties that should be immediate red flags to people?
Moisture-related issues, musty smells.
When someone's been mucking around with their electrical, there's faulty light switches. You're turning on light switches that are turning on lights in other rooms and things like that. People cover up issues they've had with the house. Nobody wants to have, a hole in the wall where they've done a bit of a patch. They'll put a nice plant there and think, what's a plant there for?
What are some of the worst examples you've found while inspecting properties across Queensland and Victoria?
I did a house a few months ago where termites had eaten pretty much all the structural members of the house. What looks like to be a perfect wall is actually totally eaten out.
I want to talk a little bit now about perhaps some red flags that the average person might pick up when going through an open home inspection. And, the sort of things that should seem a bit off to them and might signal they definitely need to get a professional in to do an inspection. What are some things that you've seen going through properties that should be immediate red flags to people?
The big one, I've had a few recently, moisture-related issues, musty smells, houses that have been closed up that just don't smell right, and there's something in the air that doesn't seem right. That all refers back to moisture, leaks, problems like that. They'd be the main ones, and they're pretty easy to spot. We've got the equipment, we've got thermal cameras, moisture meters. We can find, if there's a problem in the house regarding moisture, that would be the biggest for me.
Adrian?
Some of the things I don't like is electrical things. Like I did a house not that long ago that didn't have the earth wire connected. And that can be fatal. Just simple as that. And you know straight away too when someone's been mucking around with their electrical and there's faulty light switches or you're turning on light switches that are turning on lights in other rooms and things like that. So that stuff's dangerous and that's expensive to fix, So those are things, sometimes the structural stuff is sort of easy to spot. And you do smell musty things when there's leaks, things like that. People generally are aware if there's a little bit of moisture around a shower, if it's visible. With the instruments we have these days, we find it before it's visible, and that's a good thing. But yeah, things like that where people have mucked around with trades that they shouldn't be mucking around with, and it's safety. That's a part that bothers me.
What are some of those biggest hidden issues that aren't able to be detected by the average person though? So I think water leaks is a good one because yes, there can be a musty smell. Yes, there could be some water damage in the ceiling, but also there could be some water damage and there be no signs, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So can you tell me about a couple of hidden issues that only professionals can be able to spot?
Asbestos is a tricky one where it's in a house, but you can't definitely say that is asbestos. So we err on the side of caution and recommend further testing or inspections. But you can also have asbestos fibres in insulation, in roof spaces, obviously in older homes from around about the 60s. That's a hard one because it's there somewhere and you have to report it, but you can't really say exactly where you think it is. So further testing and further investigations are always required.
Adrian, are there any hidden issues that you're coming across quite a bit in building inspections?
It's quite often the things that people don't realise they're doing with their house. So you come across a house that's been nicely landscaped, it's nicely painted, everything's looking fresh, the gardens are all fluffed up, and sprinkler systems and plants everywhere, which is lovely. But what they don't realise is they're just creating a perfect path for termites to come into the house and do some real damage. And I've gone into houses where, I've been inspecting the house and tapping the skirting and just knock holes in it. And then you got to, it's how long is a piece of string? You're looking for how much damage there is there. So the house presented very well. One I did recently also was a house where people had spent over $60,000 putting timber deck around the whole house. They didn't want any yard. So they had this beautiful deck and it was very well maintained, right around to the pool. House was lovely. And I was checking the whole deck and I got to the last 2 feet and stepped through it. So those are sort of things that are, the wear and tear on that deck, normal person won't know. And even just walking around, you may not see. And so with that experience now, the more inspections we do, the more even experience we gain in those sort of things that are hidden, that even we might not have realised was going to be the case, So nobody got hurt. I was able to point it out, gave them guidance on how to repair it. But it's those sort of things, the experience that we're gaining that they can't possibly gain. And that's why it's necessary or a great idea to have someone experienced like us to show you the ins and outs of the property.
What are some of the worst examples you've found while inspecting properties across Queensland and Victoria? Things that perhaps the buyer would never have spotted if they hadn't gotten an inspection?
Major structural would be probably the worst thing you could have. You may see signs of structural problems in a house, but if you delve further and look more closely with experience, you'll find there's a lot more going on. So a crack in a brickwork might just look like that's what you see, but then you delve further and realise, the house is way out of level or has some major structural problems or termite infestation. And I've seen a lot of that in the north of Melbourne.
Really? Termite infestations in Melbourne? Because that's something I thought was, existed in Victoria but more prevalent perhaps in Queensland, but we still need to be worried about it in Victoria?
Definitely, particularly the north of Melbourne, in the wooded areas or bushed areas. I did a house a few months ago where looking at the house, you couldn't really tell much. Then as I delved further, I'd started tapping weatherboards, posts, etc., and the termites had eaten pretty much all the structural members of the house because they won't eat the paint. So what looks like to be a perfect wall is actually totally eaten out. The frame's gone. So that's major structural possibly collapse in the future. So that young girl, her father was very thankful that we saved her a massive headache and quite a lot of money.
Right. So it sounds like if I was just looking at that house, it would look fine at face value because the paint was still standing, all good, and it was only when you started inspecting it thoroughly you discover this giant infestation of termites.
Correct.
That's a horror story.
The real estate pictures looked fantastic.
Oh, my gosh.
But also what people don't realise is when there's termite damage like that, it might not be just cosmetic. One of my neighbours came down to my place last year, asked me to come and have a look at a house of his it's an investment property in our street, and the roof of the garage was collapsing and the roof tiles. So roof tiles are very heavy compared to a tin roof. Wouldn't you agree, Ron? And
yep.
He had climbed into the roof space. So this gentleman's around about mid-70s. So he's seen that something's going on with the ceiling. He's climbed into the roof space, had a bit of a look and thought, this isn't good. So he wedged a bit of timber in there and came down and asked me to come and have a look. So when I had a look, I'm going, you need to stay off that roof. Don't go on the roof. Don't go in under there. Don't go anywhere near it. That was really dangerous. A tile roof can just crash down. So it's not just a matter of termites doing some cosmetic damage. When it's structural, that's a safety hazard. You could go in there and park your car, the roof collapses on you and you're in hospital, So those are the sort of things. And he's a plumber by trade, so he has a lot of experience, but he didn't know enough to not be standing on the roof, and what could be the outcome of that, So luckily I could give him that advice and get him off the roof, and he got a builder in and got the roof repaired.
Get more news and advice by downloading the RACV app to stay up to date with all our latest home, motoring and travel content.